This episode is rated M for mature audiences. The views and opinions expressed on this show are those of the speaker and do not necessarily reflect those of the PFC Entertainment Network or any of the affiliates that make this show possible.
This is the Pure Fury Creations Entertainment Network.
I'm Jason Klaus. And over the course of my life, I've done a lot of different things, and I've worn a lot of different hats. But this may be my greatest endeavor yet. On this show, we are going to focus on life. We are going to focus on the basic fundamentals. We are going to focus on the silver lining. Because no matter what happens, no matter what is thrown our way, there is a silver lining. There is a lesson to be learned. Sometimes we just have to look a little bit harder, a little bit deeper for it. That's what this show is all about. Sometimes it's going to be rough, sometimes it's going to be raw, sometimes it may be hard to listen to. But it's something that you need to hear. This just got real.
And now, Pure Fury Creations Entertainment Network presents its flagship show, the Klaus to the Heart podcast. Here is your host, Jason Klaus.
And we welcome you to the flagship show of the PFC Entertainment Network. You're listening to the Klaus to the Heart podcast. I'm Jason Klaus. We certainly appreciate you tuning in here this week. Now, last week's show was something of an audible, and it tackled a pretty heavy and personally charged topic. And I had said at the start of the show that I had another idea in mind. But because of the way things shaped up, when real life threw the curveball, we called it audible. And that's going to happen from time to time. So I said I had taken the original idea and we kind of put it up on the shelf for the week. So we're going to pull it down and we're going to break this thing down here in a little bit. Before I do that, though, I'd like to take a moment here and get my cheap plugs out of the way and, just kind of let people know what's happening here on the network because, anybody that pays attention to the network overall can see that, changes are being made. Some subtly, some not so much. Here's the thing that I need folks to understand. And I can tell by the correspondence, the feedback that I get, whether those individuals knew me from a previous genre of entertainment, that being a promoter and a performer in a professional wrestling organization, or if they know me just by doing this here at the network, the whole podcasting thing. And I can understand wholeheartedly why those folks who knew me on a different level, in a different world, are having something of a conflict with the way things are now and the way I communicate, I correspond, and I go through life. Because there is a definite line in the sand. And on the far end of that line is the life and the human and the person that I used to be. And the one on this side of the line is the one that I am here and now. And which case I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, I feel like the way things are trending, the best version of myself, and I'm continuing to get better. I'm continuing to learn. I'm continuing to move forward in dreams and goals and aspirations that I have set for myself, many of which I never really had that opportunity to fully explore for a number of different reasons. At this point, at this stage in my life, my whole focus has shifted. And I put a lot of myself in this network because I believe in its future. But I'm also a realist. And I realize that if there is any type of issue or just a hint of dissension, I am here to tell you I will evaluate those situations and I will respond accordingly. It doesn't have to be a need for any kind of blow up or confrontation or anything like that. It's just one of those things that truly gets chalked up as it is what it is. I am continuing to move forward, and I am going to move forward in the way that I think is going to be best. And if it's not, I will learn my lesson. I will, adopt that into the next step, and I will continue to move forward. What I'm not going to do is entertain anybody's bullshit. What I'm not going to do is sit here and play games and sit here and try to play the guessing game with anybody across any realm in any aspect of my life. I'm not doing it. It's not that I don't care. It's just it's not a priority at that point. It's already been demonstrated where I'm at. So what in the hell am I going to focus on? Why am I going to spend that time, that energy on something that ultimately isn't really going to change anything when I could be directing that towards a goal or a item on my checklist? I don't think a lot of folks take into consideration what all goes into what we're doing here. Anything that's got my logo on it, it is something that it's an extension of me in tribute to my brother. So if anybody thinks for one single solitary second I'm fucking around with any nonsense, they're finding out I'm not here to play. And I'm not going to have that be a thing under this umbrella. So the lineups, have shifted. The lineups have changed in terms of what show drops on what day, what shows are even available on this network now. In the case of like the Potato Pals perspective, that show has not been shelved. I mean, it's been on pause because I'm trying to get to a locked down schedule that would allow Pope, Brandon Brownson, to be able to plan his schedule so that we can figure out a day and time to record. I find that when there is a set schedule, the consistency is greatly elevated. Now with this show, I can do this pretty much any time I want because the way it's been here lately is it's just been me. So if it's 4:30 in the morning and I have an idea, 4:30 on a Sunday morning, I guess I should say, I can come down here, fire everything up, and we're off and running. the ones that, have co-hosts, obviously their schedules have to be taken into consideration. Try to be as accommodating. When there's set plan, set schedule, it tends to, it just goes a lot smoother, We have been very busy here. I have been very busy here exploring all kinds of different options on how to expand our footprint. And a lot of it's been trial and error. And we've been exploring different options and kind of investing into software, into different equipment, into different possibilities for broadcast events across the board, So it's not like we're just, I'm just over here, sitting on my hands waiting for the next opportunity to fall into my lap, because that does not happen. It just does not happen. I am all the time throwing shit at the wall to see what sticks. And I'm very big on vibe. I'm very big on aura, and if there is something not jiving, if there's a weird aura, if there's a weirdness around any particular setting or event that we're doing, recording, doesn't even matter, I'm quick to go into defense mode. Because here's what happens. You can, and a lot of you can relate to this. When there is just something not feeling right, and you attempt to express your feelings about it, or what you think might be off, or what have you, a lot of times you are met with immediate resistance, aggression. And it doesn't have to be even screaming and yelling, but you can just tell they're automatically in defense mode and making excuses or projecting or, trying to, well, if you weren't doing this, I wouldn't be reacting like that. And I fuck all of that. No. The second the conversation starts on that level, I have pretty much checked out. Because that's not going to lead to anything. It's all about how things are presented. It's all about how things are communicated. And like, I have a vision. I have an idea of how I want things to look, how I want things to sound. And if that's not being respected, I'm checking out. And I realize not all my ideas are going to be home runs. You can go on the online store right now, and there are things that people like, and there are things that people don't like. It's very individualized. But what I can tell you is that every single thing on that store came from my head, from my hands. So I do take a tremendous amount of pride in that. But I go into it realizing not everything is going to be a home run. Same thing with this show. There are topics that people are going to gravitate towards, and then there's going to be topics that they have no experience in. So obviously it's not going to resonate with them. But we do try to find those things that are pretty universal. Especially if you were to drop the wall a little bit, put your ego to the side for a second, and actually look and listen to what's happening in the world around you. You'd be surprised what has been all around you the entire time. And for one reason or the other, you just didn't pick up on it. That happens. It's part of being a human. especially a human in this day and age when we are consistently trying to shove 15 pounds of shit into a 5-pound bag during the course of our day, because of all the expectations and obligations and responsibilities, and then we put pressure on ourselves and make sure that everybody else is good until the point to where we have nothing left for ourselves. We look at our lives as a whole and realize just, man, this is an overwhelming ball of fuckery. And for a lot of people, the easy thing to do is just throw their hands up in the air and just give up. I don't give up. And you shouldn't give up. Because here's the thing, man. If you go through life thinking that every single day is going to be filled with sunshine and rainbows, you are setting yourself up for a monstrous degree of disappointment. You've got to have your tough days to appreciate the good ones. You got to have your tough days to teach you life lessons. You got to have tough days that are going to force you to come to terms and that ultimately in an effort to come to peace with aspects of your past that may not be stellar. You could look back on those as regrets. You could look back on those as moments or chapters of your life that you wish never happened. It'd be real easy to do that. Everybody does it. But I look at it as that was probably the dumbest thing I probably could have fucking done. But at the same time, there's a lot of lessons that can be taken away, that can be incorporated into the here and now, that ultimately leads you to the best version of yourself in the next chapter of your life, because nobody says you have to be defined by your past. And if anybody tries to keep condemning you over that, as you have already, in some cases, achieved your level of self-peace, self-reflection, that can't be a catalyst. You can't use somebody's past as a catalyst for issues in the here and now, because those people, the ones who are dialed in, are trying to put that as far in the rear view as they possibly can. Could be a traumatic event, could be a traumatic loss, it could be a number of different things. And a lot of times we do carry that with us. That's why it's important to take the time to really think about what went wrong. Why did it go wrong? What could you have done differently? What could you have done better? There's always going to be that evaluation period, but you don't have to be defined by that. Use it as tools, as the catalyst to turn the page and start a brand new chapter. Now, we're all going to have tough days. Every single one of us. That is a very universal thing. You're going to have good days, you're going to have bad days. But here are some things to remember when you're having a tough day. Pain is part of growing. A lot of what I just said as a precursor to this is a testament to that. At some point during the course of your life, you've lost someone of significance. Whether it's a failed relationship, whether it's the passing of a friend or a relative, mentor, somebody that you genuinely liked, respected, loved. that's going to open Pandora's box on a lot of different emotions. And the dominating one is pain. Now, people will ride on that for a long time. I think a lot of it is, especially with the loss of a loved one, when a loved one passes away, we're scared that if we, how do I want to say this? If we come to terms with the fact that they're gone, and we get to a point to where we can navigate day to day without breaking down every other minute, we sometimes feel like we're doing them and their memory a disservice, like we're condemned to a lifetime of pain in a way to honor the ones that we have lost. I can wholeheartedly understand that. Somebody expressed that to me a few years ago, and I never forgot that. Because I could have very easily been one of those people, but I don't. Now, make no mistake about it. There are things in my life that are fueled by pain, and I have no problem in admitting, losing my mom and my brother in a very close proximity of time fucked me up. And it hurts because every single day I'm reminded of something. Every single day they are remembered and represented, and like every day it crosses my mind. And every day there is, while it may be the happiest of memories, there is still that underlying feeling of pain of the fact that they're not here. But part of getting back to some degree of what normalcy is going to look like is going to force you to deal with a tremendous amount of pain. It just gets more tolerable. But it's also part of growing. In the example of a failed relationship, on any level, that is going to produce another side of pain. But you can also, like I said earlier, learn from mistakes on your behalf and the other parties. You learn, what not to do, what worked, what didn't, this, that, and the other thing, and you incorporate that into the next chapter of your life, or whatever that looks like. Another thing to remember is that everything in life is temporary. How many times have you heard me say we are on borrowed time here? And I say that as somebody who once thought, just like so many of us did, that we have an unlimited amount of time. We do not. We do not. We are all on borrowed time. Every single person that you correspond with, every single person that you love, every single person that you hate is on borrowed time. Every scenario that you are involved in, every aspect of life is temporary. It seems like it takes forever, but in the grand scheme of things, it does not. There is expiration date. I used to be somebody that would purposely put things on the side burner, and I'll get to it. I'll get to it when the time is right. or when I feel like I'm allowed to experience that or have that or what have you. That is one aspect that I'm still to this day coming to grasps with, because and it doesn't necessarily have to be materialistic things, although that is a common example that is brought up when I have this kind of conversation, that somebody has been wanting something for so long and they just never, they could have had the money, but they're scared to do that because of what the residual or what the backlash would be if they were to do that. What would other people say? What would other people think? Who gives a fuck? As long as it's not a detriment or puts your family or yourself in some sort of dire situation. You want to go on a trip? Start planning the trip. Start putting concrete plans in place. Book that hotel. Book that flight. Buy those tickets, because you're only going to get that opportunity once. Or at least have it in your mind that you're only going to have that opportunity once. Can I give you an example? I haven't been to a WrestleMania since 2007, when it was in my home state, when it was an hour away from where I lived at the time. I've been wanting to go to WrestleMania. It's the pinnacle of professional wrestling. I had goals that I wanted to see at least one of my 3 heroes inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. I missed all 3 of them. Wasn't able to go. Wasn't allowed to go. This year, my girl and I are going to Las Vegas. Why? To go to WrestleMania. A year ago, that wouldn't even been a thought. Be like, I'll just wait till it's closer. If things are tough, this does not last forever. You've got to know that. You've got to believe that every step forward is a step away from what this toughness is. But at the same time, you've got to take the action to not just bypass it, but to address it, to eliminate it, so it doesn't become a reoccurring theme within your life, within your day-to-day. But on the other hand, the things that are good, don't take it for granted like it's always going to be there. Treat it as if you have it for the absolute last day of your life, if it's something that important to you. But I mean, if you're going through a real bad time right now, things can be done. Things can be executed. Things can be talked out to where this is not going to be a forever thing. Worrying and complaining changes nothing. We can sit here and overanalyze every problem, every issue that we're dealing with, but it's not going to change. Complaining about it isn't going to change. Let's say you're going into work and just the aura is off, the environment is toxic, the people you work with, you wouldn't trust any further than you could throw them across the street. Management is out of touch. Complaining about it isn't going to change it. If it becomes such a detriment that it starts to physically affect you, like it's starting to affect your health, your well-being, you got to consider a change. Because worrying about it and complaining about it isn't going to change it. Just isn't. A lot of these cases, man, like, change is going to come when you pull the trigger. and actually embark on it. It's scary. Change can be scary, but can also be the greatest thing that you ever do for yourself. If you're overly worried about something and you're not getting anywhere by the proper means of communication, or you're not seeing the actions that you feel like you need to in order to justify any of it, you got some changes to be made. You need to pivot because something ain't flying. Your scars are symbols of your strength. If that's the case, I know a select group of people who would be the strongest people in the world. I remember after everything that happened with my brother, and rumors started going around social media to the point to where I had to go on Facebook Live like hours after everything happened and squash the rumors. And I remember somebody commenting on there that I was the strongest person that they had ever known, because I had to do that, because I was going to be goddamned if I was going to let any of that bullshit get tied to all of that was going on. It wasn't going to happen on my watch. And I've been told several times, you're the strongest person I know in the face of adversity, in the face of loss. Look, it's because I had to be, not because I wanted to be. And I didn't understand it at that time. I do now. Because it prepared me for subsequent challenges and issues that would come up later on down the road. And I was able to combat that in a very productive manner. Sometimes our answers aren't always there. We have to wait for them. And when that time comes, you're like, that's why. That's why. That's the answer I was waiting for. That happens. Every little struggle is a step forward. I kind of alluded to that a little bit ago. Other people's negativity is not your problem. When we care about people, like really care about them, and we know that they're going through something, our almost immediate response is that we want to try to lighten the mood. We want to try to help them out of that funk. We want to try to lighten the mood, make them see something more positive than what they're talking about or what they're bringing to the table. But a lot of times, once you have that conversation or you spend that block of time with them, their negativity kind of rubs off on you, and it dictates how you conduct yourself or how you feel for the rest of the day. Especially those who really mean something to us. And we want to be empathetic. We want to understand why they're feeling the way that they feel. And, if it's your significant other or your kids or something like that, like obviously we're going to be a hell of a lot more dialed in and committed to the situation in order to help them. But when it's like a work colleague, when your buddies, your friends, people that you like and things of that nature, but it's not somebody on that level, it would be real easy to allow that negativity to shape the rest of our day, our mood, how we feel. Fact of the matter is that generally you are not responsible for the reasons why this person is so miserable on this day. You didn't cause that. You need to remember that. Now, they may project onto you because, number one, you are a source of comfort and familiarity to where they feel like it's okay to just bring all this shit out on the table and dump it right into your lap. It's not your problem. You can try to be that good friend and offer words of encouragement and advice and things of that nature. What they do with it at that point is on them. It ain't on you. You've done what you thought you needed to do. You've taken care of what you thought you needed to do. And bless your heart for trying. But whatever the hell that their problem is not yours. And you need to remember that. So you don't need to shoulder some of that blame, some of that hurt, some of that worry, some of the complaining, just anything that is causing a large aura of negativity. What's meant to be will eventually be. This one causes contrast and comparisons. Because there are people that do believe in this philosophy, and there are people who believe that everything just happens by chance. Are we living life by the seat of our pants, or is there something that has the stars predetermined where our path is? You can make an argument for both if you're open-minded about it. And depending on what you've experienced over the course of your life, this is what's going to set you on one side of the line or the other. And no one says that there's absolutely right and there's absolutely wrong. Because there's a lot of inexplicable shit that happens. Shouldn't, but it does. And the best thing that you can do is keep going. On the most difficult days, overcoming the most astronomical boulders and challenges and anything that's attempting to derail your momentum, derail you from your goals, keep you from the dreams that you are working so hard on. Some way or another, you have to take at least one step forward every single day. Could be the smallest of steps. But every single day, you've got to do something to move forward. Something that is going to be a contributor to the achievement of your goals, or the life that you want, or your dreams, or whatever the case is here. Things like yesterday, things like regret, things like shame, things of that nature will do anything and everything to keep their hooks in you, to prevent you from moving forward. The bitch of it is a lot of times the ones that are pulling those strings back are the ones that are supposed to be, at one time or another, we're supposed to be in our corner, on our side. Because jealousy is an ugly, ugly bitch. Because it's what you're doing in moving forward. Number one is probably distancing yourself away from a scenario that individual is part of. And who the fuck are you to be happy when that person is over there being miserable? That's the mentality. Again, their negativity is not your problem. If they're jealous, if they're having an issue with any of that, that's a them problem. That's not a you problem. That is demonstration that at the end of the day, when you strip all the pomp and circumstances and all the bullshit off, they need to bring themselves up to your level instead of you dropping down to theirs in an effort to maintain peace. You've got to keep moving forward. No matter what. No matter what. So yeah, there are going to be tough days ahead. But like everything else, they're temporary. They don't last forever. After every storm is a brilliant rainbow. Through the darkest night, after the darkest night, is a very bright and promising sunrise for a new day. You got to keep that in mind and keep that in focus. With that, we're going to put a bow on this week's episode. Certainly appreciate you tuning in here. Check out pfcnetwork.net or any of our socials on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok. Just look for PFC Entertainment Network. With that, go out, be awesome to yourselves and to each other, and we'll see you next week right here. The Klaus of the Heart Podcast, the flagship show of the PFC Entertainment Network.